Well, fellas, long time coming. I apologize for the holdup. In this video, I'm going to talk about my 20,000 mile review. I'm an owner of this truck, long-time Ram guy. I run a fleet of Rams. So in this video, I'd like to review my use, how I like it, what I don't like it, how much I actually like this truck, and yeah, all the goods and bads. I think this video is going to be a little bit of extensive. It's going to be on the lengthier side, so if that's not what you're looking for, wrap her up. But we'll include the mechanical aspect of it. This truck, 90% of it is towing. So for the curious ones, when am I driving, when I'm not towing, I have me a TRX. So I love me my TRX, but TRX can't haul what this thing can haul. So let's go, fellas. Why did I pop the hood? I was going to show you guys something. Got a little Anderson connecting hit in there just so I can. Cold temps are coming around and we're already starting to see it. A little backstory: I worked with a lot of diesel equipment, so pickups, semi-trucks. Semi-trucks seem to be really affected. Within a week, I think we jumped 2 trucks already with it. On a side note, I do run a service, a truck service. If you're new to this channel, I advise you to go look at some older videos, but primarily what I do with this pickup is I haul goosenecks, but I'm involved in a couple other companies, and one of them is roadside assistance for repairs to get the guys back on their feet. So sometimes I'll grab this truck and go give my guys a hand there. So anyways, let me show you the mileage. 21,000. This is, I don't know how long for how many miles that is, but let me show you some more data here. So the last 2,400 miles has been 12.8, and the last 8,400 miles has been 13.2. Now, seeing that, I have to admit this truck gets phenomenal fuel mileage, and you're like, Paul, you're not making sense right now. Guys, keep in mind, this thing tows goosenecks 90% of the time. And it has so much power that it doesn't really slow you down. You maintain speed just fine. It's just at what rate the diesel comes out of the fuel tank is what speeds up. I mean, I've done several loads where I was like low 7s, high 8s. So that's quite a bit of fuel consumption there. So let's talk about towing, right? Let's talk about this truck. How does it do towing? And then we're going to talk about the most commonly asked question, which is, hey, do you have any of these trucks in your fleet? If not, why? And then the third one, I already lost track. So the first one, how it tows. Second one, why I don't have these in my fleet. To answer that question, I do not, and I'll answer why later. And the third one is comparing the two. So we're going to compare 22 Rams with this 24. So anyways, so back her up. How does this tow? Phenomenally. My longtime viewers know I had a 23. I was pleasantly surprised with it. My longtime viewers also know that I got into a Ford because my 22s grenaded like popcorn. 80, 90, 100,000. They just started grenading. Engines grenading. Like, yeah, it was a big deal. I do not own a single 22 Ram 3500 at this moment. I've sold them all. I've traded in 6 of them, and I sold 2 of them. Anyway, so as far as this truck tows, guys, this transmission, this engine does fairly impressive. I really like the way it shifts under a load. Yes, it's much better tuned, strategized. The transmission seems a lot more solid than my 23 as far as tuning goes and how it approaches hill climbs and whatnot. This thing rarely ever downshifts one gear. It will try to play king of the hill for the longest time, and then once, it'll be fighting the hill, and if it's slowly losing speed, it will not downshift. It'll keep fighting it. I think once it drops below 2 miles an hour, it'll drop 2 gears and just rip up the hill and just hold it there until it sees less of a load. So that strategy is phenomenal. We don't have what we had with the 23. I mean, guys, the 23 went from 10th to 6th to 9th to 7th. I mean, the thing was just went crazy. Now, I have to admit, this truck, I have double the mileage on this truck as I did with my 23. I pretty much sold the 23 right at 10,000 miles. I traded it to the dealership. This one I intervened. I absolutely love this function, the manual. No, this isn't the whole eliminating thing. You know, everybody thinks by just applying this is the same thing as that. Absolutely not. This is a phenomenal thing. I applaud Ford for doing that. They actually listen to their customers. So just pressing this button, you just start eliminating gears, right? 10, 9. I'm going to show you. Well, come on, buddy. Let's focus. 8, 7, right? Now let's go back up, and now we're just gonna press that button. Watch what it does there. Right? Well, let me excel a little bit. Get it up to speed. Did you see that? Just a light acceleration. You know, it just went to 8th. So let's just set cruise, so we don't have to pay attention to that. That's annoying what Ford's doing there. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit this button. Locks it into 10th. I think as long as it doesn't drop below 1,000 RPM, it can bounce off the rev limiter. It will not upshift. You could put the thing to the floor. I mean, it's kind of hard to believe. Look, all the way to the floor. Jack Squiggly happened, buddy. I absolutely love it. I love what they did here. I mean, if you don't know what you're doing, technically you could kind of overheat it in the long run. But anyways, absolutely love that feature. So let's get it out of this whole lock thing. If you downshift and let's say you eliminate 10th and 9th and 8th gear, it kind of going starts to get rough. It will drop gears if you're just doing this. You're eliminating gears. But if you're manually locking gears, phenomenal. So that's what I've been doing. You know, I see a serious hill climb, I'll drop, you know, I'll drop it into 8th or 9th before the actual full-on load, before it starts building boost like a maniac. Try to avoid shifting, guys, middle of the hill as much as you can. I believe that alone will prolong the life of your transmission by a long shot. You know how these transmissions try to start pulling middle of the hill and just downshift. Avoid that. If you know your truck isn't going to make it up there, you know it's going to be possibly struggling, drop a couple gears, keep the revs high. You know, it seems like these trucks like to be anywhere between 1,600 and 2,600. Seems like that's just its sweet spot. Absolutely. Pretty impressed with what Ford was able to accomplish with the tuning of the engine. I feel like they're messing with timing a lot. I'm no guru there, but you can kind of feel it just keeps giving and giving. I know Ram's been doing that. It kind of keeps going and going. You know, your boost backs off, but your pull just holds it there. Alright, let's shut this thing up. So let's wrap up towing. That is a phenomenal thing. I really hope Ram does it in their new upcoming 8-speed transmission, and I hope GM jumps on the train. One of the best things you could have with right after tow haul setting, right? Absolutely love it. Now, things I hate. Things I hate about this truck. It has an electrical issue. It has some kind of gimmickry going on there. I don't know what the fuss is all about this thing. My sprayers don't work 10% of the time. Like, I'll hit the button and it won't be spraying, right? But they'll start wiping as if they sprayed. So it's not a contact issue. It gets the message. It starts wiping. But 10% of the time, that thing don't work. Now, I had 2 instances for days straight. My keyless entry was not working. So initially when I bought this truck, shortly after I purchased it, I had it go missing for, I think, about a day. Just kind of quit working, but then it came back. Now, recently, about 2 weeks ago, the darn thing just quit. And on the 3rd day, I got a brilliant idea of just unhooking the batteries. I unplugged the batteries, hooked them back up, and voila, things started working. So, with that being said, the keyless entry is gimmicky. Now, this, call it infotainment, but it's primarily the Bluetooth and the auto CarPlay. I don't know how to describe this guy. I'm gonna take a drink here. Give me a break. This CarPlay, sometimes it just goes to crap. It just kind of freezes up on you, as if it's still working. Like, you press a button, the screen isn't frozen on you, but the thing just ain't communicating with you. joke. Ford, if you're listening, can you please, for the love of God, when we press the manual button, just give it all it has for the RPM that it has. It is frustrating. This thing has a mind of its own. You could count on a downhill push. It will engage. It will kick in. It will do its thing. Guys, that is automatic. Give me that when the darn thing is in auto. When it is in manual, give me all it has like Ram does. It's night and day difference. It's a must. Why don't you guys do that? So in manual, just give me everything it has. So in 10th gear, give me what it has. Give me the full beans it has in 10th gear. Don't mess with my exhaust brake ability. What the computer does. Here, let me show you. So we're cruising, right? And I'm off the throttle. I mean, you have this thing kick in. Yeah, theoretically it kicked in. You have your percentage. You hear something, but it's a freaking joke. We're kind of going uphill. Now, if this computer feels a downhill without even downshifting, it freaking works. So, Ford, if you can't give us 100%, give us consistency in manual. That's all I'm asking you for. When I haul a heavy load, I do not want the computer doing whatever the frickin' wants to do. Stop that. Give me the full control in manual. Now, if I were to put in, sorry guys, you have to hear my rant, but Ford, just get out of the hole of, hey, we're going to automate the piss out of everything. Now, when it's an automatic, do your thing. Let the computer do all the thinking for you. But in manual, can you please give me full control of that exhaust brake? That's it. We're done. So, if I was going to call Ford out on anything, it would be that exhaust brake. I understand the gimmicks. You know, this thing has so many computers in it. I understand they don't communicate all the time like the keyless entry. I hate it, but I understand it. The sprayer, whatever's going on with the sprayer, I could work with that. I could understand that. But this is stupidity. A guy that has 500 horsepower and 1200 torque is probably going to be towing with it. And if you're just hauling your booty around, more power to you. But most of us that work these trucks, they're probably working them pretty good. Give us the control. Anyways, that's the only thing I would absolutely say I hate about this Ford is the exhaust brake has a mind of its own. But, you know, when it counts the most, going down a hill, you getting pushed. Yep, it kicks in hard, it kicks in good. So it has the ability. I'm not asking for something it doesn't have. It does have the ability to do it, but just Ford intervenes with their computers and just screws everything up. Anyways, as far as power, guys, I like the power, but I baby it. I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I will not buy one of these trucks for my fleet, as stupid as it sounds. The reason I love this truck is the reason I don't buy this thing for my guys. They will grenade this thing. I just don't believe this truck will stay intact at 300,000 with this kind of power, meaning the engine, the transmission, the rear end being original. It's just not going to happen. This thing has so much power. I love it. It's a hot rod, but you know, there's a time and place for everything. And if guys that have companies, and if you know drivers, 95% of them are just going to mash that throttle to the floor and let it do its thing. As they say, just let it eat. Well, that's what it's built for. You're sitting there scratching your head like, yes, but not at full throttle, buddy. Just take it easy. So that's the main reason. And secondary is the exhaust brake. You can put it the other way around. The exhaust brake is so gimmicky in anticipation what it's going to do. And the power is why I do not have these things in my fleet. Do I need 1,200 pounds of torque? 1% of the time, maybe 2. You know, this truck sees 15 to 20,000 pounds behind it. Believe me, 1,000 foot-pounds is plenty. 1,200 is even better. Absolutely love the power, but I'm not convinced this thing's going to stay together. Not with drivers in it, not them hot rodding it. Now, if you're an owner-operator and you want to buy a Ford, and you do what I do, intervene with the shifting, take it easy, yeah, I think it'll do real well. Thermally, the control as far as thermal efficiency and how it stays cool, it has the abilities to do it, guys. Don't let those numbers fool you. If this thing wants to stay at a certain temperature, it will. It has plenty of radiators, plenty of cooling. Kind of brings me to my next point. This thing is complex. This engine under this hood is complex. If I were to hold on to a vehicle for $300,000, this probably wouldn't be it. It's tempting to get your foot into it. It's tempting to take off. It is fun. It's phenomenal, you know. At 20,000 pounds behind this truck with the gooseneck, and you're just ripping along like nobody's business. Well, me tell you, that is pretty awesome. Flip around, guys. I literally went for a drive for you guys because I feel bad. I made a post that I'm getting you guys an update, but I haven't gotten you one, so I literally left the shop making you an update. Hopefully you guys appreciate that. Complexity, you know, you're talking about a Cummins with an inline 6 versus a V8. Yes, you know, this thing is a little, call it quote unquote more simple than the Duramax in the aspect of technically there's less parts with their valve covers they got going on with this Powerstroke. But Powerstroke and Duramax are far more expensive in the long run as far as repairs go versus the Cummins. So that would be my first reason why I would not buy one of these for the long run. If you're a guy that's renting trucks, this would be probably my first pick because it's such a fun vehicle. Well, time to roll, fellas. Time to rock and roll. Quarter throttle, I mean, this thing's ripping. You know, for that matter, let me give you a good half throttle. Like, there is no issues there. I better back off on it just a tad before I get asked to slow down. Oh, absolutely hot rod, man. This thing's a beast. So, that would be another business decision. I would not buy this truck for long term. I would buy it for short term. You know, if you trade in your trucks every year, every couple years under 100,000, guys, all three of them would do just fine. Duramax, Powerstroke, and Cummins. Take your pick, whatever you like more. Drive the piss out of it and trade it in like a lot of you guys do. Now, if you're the long haul guy, if you're the guy that does a lot of miles and you just can't afford to trade them in that often, buy the Cummins. It's a slow and steady tractor. Like me for an example. Yes, it's a fun truck. Yes, it's a hot rod. Absolutely love it empty. But I don't really drive it empty. You know, I have a diesel for a reason, and I have a TRX for a reason as well. So I like to enjoy my TRX around town, and the TRX is a funner vehicle. It's a little smaller, so it's easier in and out. But that's not the reason I drive the TRX over this. This is a hauler. That's a fun toy. It makes my ride more enjoyable. End of the day, with all the nonsense we're dealing with, if you get in a car and that puts a smile on your face, I think you should drive that car. Anyways, back to business on this thing. Let's talk about numbers. Ford could easily drop those numbers. Those numbers aren't up there because it's struggling to stay cool. Those are very controlled numbers. Look at that coolant, man. 181. I have not done anything to this truck mechanically outside of the cosmetics. I mean, I haven't intervened with anything. I haven't convinced this thing and it used to run cooler, thermostats or anything. That's just how it runs, OEM, right? That transmission kind of hangs around low 200s typically. I did find it that the computer does lower the temperature once you start working this thing pretty hard, which is pretty cool. Engine oil kind of stays at 210 when I'm working it. Low 200s average, but you know, it does get up to about 210 when you're working it a little heavier. I mean, 220, 230 is not insane, but with the EGR and just the hot V that it is, it doesn't scare me. You know, those are normal numbers for oil. Coolant always stays, you know, high 180s, low 190s. Everything's manageable on this, so I still frowned on that whole 200 Fahrenheit on the transmission, but maybe one day I'll mess with it and change out the that thing to 180. Seems like 180 would be the proper number for it, but hey, what do I know? Engineers know it better than me. Now, with that all, you know, after all of that's being said, all said and done, would I buy another one of these? It all depends for what. If I had to buy one diesel, yes, I would buy one of these. Like average Joe, you know, drives to work, drives to the store, pulls a camper, pulls a boat. It's definitely a good choice. I would buy this Ford over a Cummins. You know, if I drove this thing around empty a lot, it's just quick. She gets down to business and rockets. You know, the Cummins, it's just slow and steady tractor. It does phenomenally with the trailer. What I'm going at, if all I had to do is tow a trailer, I would be in a Cummins. Definitely. If I had to pick one truck all around, one truck, you know, grocery getter, driving to work, and then towing sometimes, I would seriously consider the Duramax and the Powerstroke. Strict for work and towing trailers, just forget it. Grab that Cummins and it shines. Now, what I wanted to run those parallels, I kind of gave you guys the sum up. Average Joe, Powerstroke, Duramax, workhorse, Cummins. There's nothing wrong with just punt around the Cummins. Just the Cummins won't get down and won't rocket out of its own way around town like the V8s would, just given the design and the approach they have to getting the power down. As far as fuel mileage goes, Powerstroke seems to be the king of fuel mileage. Even when it's loaded, it's comparable, it's equivalent to the Cummins. Now, when you go really heavy, I feel like the Cummins does. I know the Cummins will do better fuel mileage because for my Cummins to get the mega cab I had, for it to get into the 7s, or, I mean, it had to be some brick wall container that I'm hauling tail with. I rarely sell those numbers. This thing, I could get it down in 8s. Doesn't take much, just a good weight, and it'll be down in the 8s. What do I average? Guys, I average about 12.5 is my average I'm seeing nowadays. I did kind of get screwed over with Maverick Def. I'll do a video on that next time, a separate video, because holy smokes, this video's became long. I better wrap it up, but mechanically, I am happy with this truck. I would not buy this truck strictly for towing. If my livelihood, depending on a pickup truck towing trailers, it would not be a Duramax and it would not be a Powerstroke. I would go to that Cummins. I would buy a 4th Gen 18 Ison. Their 25 seem to be promising. With all the unofficial data we do have, 25 seems promising. And yeah, for the curious ones, that's it. That's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for a 25 mega cab. As far as do I foresee issues with this truck, you know, someone that loves hot rodding it, yeah, it's not gonna go. I don't think it'll make 300 with the gooseneck and hot rodding. This thing has so much power. I could definitely see the transmission maybe lasting 100,000. I'm not convinced it will. For a modern driver like myself, taking it easy, especially when I have a gooseneck back there, you know, I see a long hill, I'll lock it into gear, lower gear. Does it phenomenal. I hope this video helps people, man. I've taken a lot of time talking about all this. Brakes. This thing does have stronger brakes than the 22. It just has an edge on the Ram as far as braking power goes. So it kind of makes up for the weaker exhaust brake. Axles, all that. I don't know. Ford does kind of weird things with their axles. They keep screwing, changing the front axle. I don't see any issues. I mean, this thing only has 21,000 miles on it. I better not have any issues, right? Couldn't tell you one way or another. This ain't 300, this ain't 400,000 on a truck. Now, could I make this truck last 300,000? Oh yeah. Primarily two things. Control the transmission so it's not, because the engine is so powerful. Lock the gears out. Not lock them out. Lock them into, you know, manually lock them into a gear that you know you can pull the hill in. Don't let it haul heavy and being kind of aggressive, like it likes to be. When it falls behind 2 miles an hour, downshift a couple gears and it'll go ahead and get after it. So that concerns gee, Paul, it was intended for that. Bull crap. Cabin chassis don't come close to this power, and that's the reason why. We can argue till you're blue, but just the facts speak, you know. Ford's cabin chassis don't have 1200 torques. Go do your research. What is a cabin chassis? It's a cabin and chassis. It was 100% intended for work, so Ford knows better than to give you 1200 torque on it. Hopefully that makes sense. Why do I want to make a cab over this Ford? Guys, it would be hard to get me out of this Ford. Yes, I benefit a lot from testing the trucks that I use in my fleet. That's probably my biggest reason I always buy the latest trucks and test them and test products, you know, oils, fuel additives, and sometimes aftermarket parts, and then implement it into my fleet. Outside of that, it would be hard to get me out of this Ford. I really enjoy this Ford, specifically for how quick it is and all that. Yes, it gets me mad. I do work with it as far as the exhaust brake goes. Anyway, it's time to go to bed. I put it into manual mode, you know, downshift, couple gears, especially if I'm going downhill. The computer feels it. It really helps me out, but on the flats, you're kind of on your own. I have not followed along on the brake pads, but I feel like they would be significantly more worn than Ram, given the less controlled exhaust brake. Hopefully that helps. Now, as far as transmission fluid, that's something I'm really curious to drain, and hopefully one of these days I will. My shop's been so busy with services that it's just, you know how it is. You kind of put your stuff to the side. It's not a burning matter, but in my heart, I would like to see this tranny serviced, you know, at 20 to 30,000 miles. I've already entered 20, so by 30,000, I'd really like to see this fluid changed. And then so I'm guessing every 50,000 would be a good number for it. The way I'm using this thing, the way I'm babying it, I really don't let this transmission heat up all that much, even though when it feels a load, it'll, as far as I did my research, the thermostat on the transmission is electronically controlled, so it does have the ability to open up a little sooner and kind of pick up speed and catch ground on going backwards on the temp. So what I'm trying to say, start working this hard, it'll get up to like 213, 215, and then it'll just start catching some grip and working it back, which is pretty cool. So it definitely has the thermal control and ability to keep these numbers in check. Outside of that, let's go back to the mega cab thing. The mega cab is because of my kids. I'm a father of 4 children, you know, I got a wife. So that mega cab really helps me with storage. When I put my kids back there, you know, they can comfortably sit. So their luggage, their coats, their everything under the seat, behind the seat, you know, every little bit counts. If you're a father with some children, you know how it is. So that would be primarily the cab in today's day. Once the 25s do come out, and maybe they'll have some sweet approach. As far as my knowledge goes, they're going to have the 8-speed, so that looks promising. I just don't know what they're going to do with the engine. I've been told they're going to definitely change quite a bit of things on that engine, but they're still keeping it coming, so I definitely look forward to it. Anyways, folks, I better wrap this up. I have a couple more ideas to talk about, but I'm going to individualize them because these videos, they get out of hand, they get so lengthy. Anyways, fellas, may the Lord bless you. May you almighty find day